Going through menopause, Cindy Sterling said she looked in the mirror and didn't recognise herself because of the toll taken on her skin. That marked the beginning of a 9-year journey during which she spent tens of thousands of dollars on professional skin treatments and skincare, and began sharing her progress and setbacks along the way on Instagram and through her YouTube channel Beyond 50 Skin, which is linked below. Just a couple of months ago, aged 59, she took the ultimate step of having a vertical restore facelift, blepharoplasty and fat transfer with the well-known cosmetic surgeon Dr Amir Karam. So if you're weighing up whether to opt for a non-surgical treatment like laser on your skin, or you're considering a facelift, or you're just interested like me in hearing about the process, Cindy's experience will help us understand what can and can't be achieved through the non-surgical options available, as well as some of the harsher realities of those treatments, and of course, recovery from surgery. And we'll also get to hear how she feels about those final results. But first, Cindy takes us back to those days when she simply didn't recognize herself.
So it started about 10 years ago when I turned 50 and I hit the big menopause that we all kind of go through. I remember stepping into the bathroom one morning and I'm literally, I know everyone says it is so cliche, but I did not recognize myself. It was a shock.
When you looked in the mirror, what were you seeing?
An old woman. I looked tired. I looked unhealthy in a way. And I just didn't have a vibrance to me that I had on the inside, but it wasn't showing. Sometimes, you can see yourself aging and, oh, I'm just getting older and this is the way it is. But it was literally overnight for me. I had a family member that was very severely ill, and I was the main caretaker and doing a lot of travel. So that always, as we know, that contributes to it. So not only was I going through menopause, but I was really going through one of the most stressful times of my life, I would say.
Oh,
and I know
so
that
sorry.
added to it. And I actually had a dermatologist visit during that time too, my yearly, of course, as we do, go get our skin checks. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to be brave enough to see if there's anything that can be done. And
So was that where you started with the dermatologist?
I tell people this on my channel. Literally, I was just like, oh, moisturizer if my skin's dry, maybe. If I had a little hand lotion, let's slap it on my face a little bit. And whatever bar soap, usually Dove unscented, was in my shower. And, the shampoo that just rinsed off my face, and done with it. Quite embarrassing,
You
really.
kept it simple.
Mostly my skin would get irritated with anything I put on it as a young person. My eyes would blow up if I wore mascara. And, even some skincare products that were supposed to be, helpful would just irritate my skin. I never had a routine. Clearly, if I was using bar soap at 50, I don't.
So where did you take it from there? I mean, what did the dermatologist advise?
I had a little spot on my lip, and I just was concerned, and she did the full body check. And at the end, I just kind of got brave enough to ask about tretinoin, vitamin A, and I was very embarrassed. Literally, I only thought movie stars used this product, that it was a very vain thing to walk into your dermatologist's office and even discuss anything skincare related or something that would help with anti-aging.
Because you thought, oh, this is a medical doctor and this is frivolous, and
And she was like, okay, yeah, sure. She honestly did not even give me any directions. I think she just figured I knew what to do. Of course, I put it on like lotion and ended up with like a blown up face by the end of the week, thinking I could do it, 3 or 4 times a week. And, I didn't do the dots. I just didn't understand.
You just thought it was a cream that you kind of slathered on. Oh,
I did. So it was a nightmare. And it kind of just all started from just getting the guts up to ask for a little bit of vanity at the dermatologist's office.
When did you start to actually document what you were doing on social media and on your channel?
So I didn't start my channel until 3.5, maybe we're going on this spring, 4 years. And it was after I had a laser procedure. I was like searching and searching and searching for information, and there was just nothing at the time. Or at least I ran across one video, and I was just like, okay, well, this, just to learn a little bit about it. I actually found at the time Dr. Davin Lim, and he was on a forum talking about the side effects and the positive and the negative. And it was just a chat. He was doing a Q&A, but basically there was nothing. And I was like, okay, there has to be, I guess I'm going to be the one that has to share this. because I didn't really, I had quite a few side effects that were unexpected. I'm like, oh gosh, if I'd known about this, maybe I never would have done it. And
Yeah.
so, not to say don't do it, but I was just like, I need to tell women what this is all about, because it was a much more intense treatment than either my physicians led me on to believe.
And was what that one of the first, because I know you've had a few treatments, clinical
Treatments.
treatments. Was
Yeah,
that the
treatments
first kind of
around.
big clinical treatment that you went
That was the
for?
first big one. I'd had a touch
Yeah.
of Botox. So in 2015, I was like, okay, I'm going to venture into tretinoin. And then maybe it was 2 years later, because I was also very shy to ask for this baby Botox thing that people were talking about. So we'd
Yeah.
moved back to California at the time, and I was gotta ask my derm, like, I've heard about this Botox. What is this? So I had a lot of worries and concerns about being too vain about this whole thing. But I spoke to her, and she just talked me through the various treatments. And she's like, but excuse me, you don't have a skincare routine at all. And I was like, even 2 years into using tretinoin, I hadn't really picked up on the fact that, besides using a moisturizer after I put the tret on, that I didn't have a skincare routine. She started me off researching The Ordinary, because they have so many details in that website that
Yeah.
gives you,
Great
just
brand.
talks you through it. I mean, she talked me through it, but she's like, your head's going to be spinning when you leave here, because it's just so overwhelming. I'd like you to start with the cleanser, very basic cleanser, the squalene cleanser, of course. And then if you want to, it's totally not necessary. You might want to research vitamin C. There's proven data around this particular ingredient. And then she's also like, you need a good moisturizer. And that was really it. A 3-step basic skincare routine, my tretinoin once to 3 times a week. And then she's like, if you want to pursue, like, some lines on your forehead, we can treat those with a very small conservative amount of baby Botox. And I think it took me a good 6 months, if not longer, to wrap my head around that.
I remember having Botox for the first time, probably when I was about 46, and I realized I worked in a tabloid newspaper at the time, and all the women around me, I suddenly realized they all had it. So I went along to get mine done, and I remember afterwards, like, getting like a panic attack a couple of weeks in, because I was going, oh, I can't move my forehead. I just didn't like the feeling of it at all. It was like freaking me out. It's like, I need to be able to move my eyebrows. Who suggested laser?
Now, that was a few years after I started the Botox. It was 2019, I believe. I went back to her and I said, okay, I really like the baby Botox, but what about all this wrinkling down in the lower face? And my biggest bugbear, as I've said, were the deep lines over my lips. They really bothered me, and I didn't know if anything could be done. It was basically just a question on one of my yearly visits again. But I was like, what do people do about these deep lines over your lip area? I said, it looks like I've been smoking for the last 20 years. And if you look at my before picture, it really does.
But you hadn't.
I had
It was
never.
just
It was just
sun damage
genetically.
and genetics.
Okay, maybe I kissed too many people.
That'll be it.
That's it. But she's like, honestly, the only thing that really helps with those particular deep lines, the deep lines in your face and the deep lines over your lips, is laser. She felt that that would be the best treatment, and she was not a laser specialist, so she referred me on. Then that led me down the rabbit hole of looking into what a laser was, what it would do, and my foray on YouTube for the first time ever. And that's where I found nobody was talking about it. Really, nobody was talking about it. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this. It doesn't seem to be very popular. And anyway, I went for the referral, and he's like, I can solve this for you.
And what kind of laser did they suggest? What was it you had?
Because you had a choice of doing kind of the slow fraxel, right, where they only ablate a certain percentage of your skin, or doing a one and done, as he called it, an ablative laser. And I was like, I don't want to, keep coming back to the dermatologist. At that time, it was more expensive to do multiple sessions over time than to do one and done. And I am kind of a one and done kind of person.
Yes.
If I have to do something uncomfortable. And so I was a bit naive about the recovery process, I would have to say. I think it was a little bit undersold how much recovery there would be. And that was when, after I finished the full year of recovering from my erbium YAG ablative laser, that I was like, okay, I got to get the word out. Because I would call them complications. I wouldn't just say it was just a long healing process. There were complications. I had skin tears.
Oh.
And I had some, what they call grid lines, because I found out later, I requested my records because I was like, why did this not quite turn out the way I'd hoped? And I found out that a resident had done my treatment. And I am sure somewhere along the way in the fine print, I had signed the paperwork for a resident to be part of the process. And
But you hadn't been told. Yeah. Yeah.
verbally, I mean, I can't say 100%. I don't
Yeah.
remember being told that. And I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't think I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe in the fact that, physicians need to learn, and I'd never had a negative experience with residents. I believe because he was inexperienced, he just went too deep in some more fragile areas. And of course, everyone heals differently. We all have different healing, capacities, but I do have residual grid lines, or did.
And when you talk about grid lines, do you mean sort of scarring that looked like a grid?
In my case, they were horizontal. So he passed the laser in this direction. And so you could see where perhaps a bit of the laser went a bit too deep along the jawline. And then I had a skin tear that actually left a scar, because I don't know if you've heard of pruritus. It's just, I call it infernal itching. And so I accidentally scratched in the middle of the night, and my skin was so fragile during the healing process that I tore my skin. So not only to heal from the laser, but I had to heal from this skin tear. And then I wore mittens or socks to bed after that, but I wasn't given any information about the fact that I might have this. I think it happens. It's a small percentage of cases, but enough to where they should say something or give you some Benadryl.
I mean, were you going back and getting checked by them? Did you go back after the first few days to
Oh,
be
yes.
looked at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have regular checkups. I kept bringing it up and bringing it up. No, this is, it's fine. It'll heal. You're not going to have any residual marks. But I have a couple over my upper lip that are just it's called hypopigmentation, which is a side effect of getting laser, and then the grid lines along here. But they did fade with time.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was very distressing, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a YouTube channel, and I'm gonna tell the world about this.
Yeah, because these are side effects that you don't often hear about. And I had a doctor on not so long ago. It was last year, but he uses the kind of old-fashioned ablative lasers, and he did not hold back on the side effects the weeks after the recovery, and how full on that could be for patients, and how much the lengths that he goes to warn people. He said you can get absolutely brilliant results from it, but it's not for the faint-hearted, and that sounds like what happened with you. But did you find, after the discomfort and the swelling and so on settled, did it impact the lines? I mean, was there a positive element to the experience?
Yes, I would say that in the end, after a year, I'd gotten over the worst of it, I guess is the best to say. I did still have a lot of redness, especially under my chin, but it was so much less visible, and the results were beautiful. I mean, I've had lovely compliments since getting it, and it did smooth out so many fine lines and wrinkles, definitely smoothed over my upper lip. So there was a very positive impact. And you asked me to kind of talk about the biggest positive impact, or the treatment that I've had that made the most impact and improvement in my skin, and it definitely was the ablative laser, without a doubt. I mean, it really set back my skin, or moved back, maybe 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
It really did. And you can see that in the results. So it was a process, and it wasn't just the laser. We can talk more about the few treatments I had.
Yeah, because you went to quite a lot of expense on the non-surgical side to try these treatments and what worked. I mean, I think you said in one Instagram post it was about $44,000. Is that
Correct.
right?
Correct.
In total. So what other treatments were included in that kind of package?
Yes. Actually, we had moved again since then. So I was here in Colorado when I decided to see what could be done about the redness in my skin. And they suggested some microneedling might help. And microneedling, I had 3 or 4 sessions. It really didn't do a whole lot, especially for the grid lines. They thought maybe they would soften some of the grid lines. I would say that for me personally, because I'd had the ablative laser, there was not that much improvement with microneedling, though I do believe that in-office medical microneedling can be beneficial.
How many treatments did you have of the microneedling and all?
3. 3 of the medical microneedling. You know,
Okay.
it's spaced out, you know, as they do.
Yeah.
So I did that and I was like, okay, you know, and then it just started to soften over time and really just didn't bother me anymore. There's the natural healing process. And then I did still have hollowing under my eyes, which was making me look tired. So I started investigating tear trough filler. And I found a really good provider here that was kind of one of his mainstays. He'd had tons and tons of experience, had a touch of that, like when I mean a touch, like literally little tiny dots, like you hardly any. And he did reduce one of them because I had a little Tyndall effect where you can get that bluing. So he used a little hyaluronidase and it was very subtle, and he followed it up with PRF. And that was an amazing treatment. Aside from the ablative laser, I just looked so much better and so much less tired.
Is the PRF is where they take your own blood?
Yes.
Isn't it?
And they spin it down. And PRF is a little bit different. I think they spin it slower so that it has more fibrin. The F stands for fibrin. PRP is platelet-rich plasma, but PRF is platelet-rich fibrin. And I feel like that was a much better option for me than PRP. I've definitely done some research on PRP, and there seemed to be better outcomes for the under eye area with PRF. And topping that off with the very, very, very conservative amount of filler that he put under there was chef's kiss, as they say. It was a beautiful result, and it lasted. It lasted for years and lasted up until my facelift.
Okay. Well, that is good to know.
And the second one, as far as filler, I had a touch of filler in my earlobes. You know, as we grow, our lobes kind of like droopy with all our with all the earrings that we wear, and then of course aging. That was my favorite. So those 3 were my top 3. I did have a touch of filler, you know, in my jaw, like little tiny bits just to give me some structure because if you think about it, laser just resurfaces the skin. It doesn't do anything to create improved structure. But I have to say, I think my entire filler amount was less than several syringes, like very, very tiny bits in structural place. You have to find an artist. If you're going to do filler, you have to find a facial aesthetic artist. And I did go back I went to a dermatologist, Dr. Idris, actually. I had been visiting New York periodically, and she is a pure artist in her practice with exactly putting the right amount and very, very conservative amounts. What is her motto? Subtle is the new dramatic. So and that was great.
Always, I mean, when you're talking about the laser, whether it's injectables or whatever, it always comes down to the practitioner. It just can't be said enough, but it does put people in a difficult position because, you know, we don't all live in the same place. We can't all go and see the same doctor. So finding that right one, it is where I think social media is brilliant. You can scour their Instagram pages and look at the treatments they've done and the comments they're getting and that kind of thing. And you know, are they hearing from regular patients? Are they commenting? And that is helpful, but it's not always easy to make that right decision.
It is not. And it's usually the great ones, they cost. They're in high demand. They're usually in big cities. I get asked that a lot. You know, why did you go to this person? They're so expensive. And not that you cannot find a brilliant provider locally. I want to emphasize that. Like you said, with the social media, it does seem easier to find very skilled people and you can view their work.
Yeah, you have to get a lot of pictures really to get a feel for what are they doing on a consistent basis and not just their one best client.
Exactly. And I also highly recommend, if you're considering anything done to your face that is going to alter the look of your face, to interview someone first and then go home. That's what I've done with everyone. And you have to see if that person has your same vision. I just wouldn't let anyone touch my face without an in-person.
Are we missing any other big treatments that you had done along the way?
Well, I got my teeth fixed. I did do that. I got them fixed as a child. And I think somebody just posted, it might have been even Dr. E just posted how important looking after your teeth is for kind of the whole full look.
And your brows as well. Did you do your brows along the way?
During my facelift.
No, I meant actual eyebrows, whether you've ever had them microneedled
or... Microblading. You mean microblading?
Microblading, yeah.
No, or tattooing? No, I've never done that.
Oh, I would recommend that. That was brilliant because I had these tiny little, well, I tell you what, actually, one viewer commented once, and this is what sent me to get this done. They commented that I looked like the McDonald's clown. And I took one look at myself and I thought, they are right. I do.
Oh, God.
So the next day, I made an appointment to have my
That
eyebrows
is so funny. I mean,
microbladed.
we are, just to touch on this, we are affected by our comments, correct? I mean, we're human. Because I did most of my treatments, well before I started my channel. I wouldn't say that talked me into it, but it does make you double think twice, doesn't it?
No, I know. And I live with boys. You see, I've got 2 sons and my husband, and they find it hilarious, the comments like that. So I never have anybody that I can turn around to and go, that was so nasty. I just have to kind of
laughing.
suck it up.
Oh my gosh. Someone said to me once, all I can think when I look at you is John Malkovich. I was like, oh my God, they're right. I looked up.
Well, he's a great actor, but you are beautiful. He's actually he's a very handsome man. So, I wouldn't know what to make of that.
I think we've covered everything, but let me just double check. Oh, I think, I don't think I mentioned that my décolleté, that once I did my face, I decided to work on my décolleté. So basically I did some fraxel and some V-beam treatments. I had a really big scar after my thyroid surgery. And I thought, what can be done about this? And so I had a whole décolleté rejuvenation to match the face with the neck and the décolleté, because really, honestly, and in most days, that's what's showing, right? Your neck and your décolleté.
Yeah.
And
you said you had fraxel, and what was the other thing you mentioned?
Oh, V-beam. V-beam was for the scar because I had a lot of redness. It's a type of
Is
light
that a
treatment.
laser beam?
It's a light laser. So I had some IPL, V-beam, and some fraxel on my neck and décolleté. And she did a few passes over the years after my laser treatment to kind of soften up some of those lines. So I just worked on evening everything up from the chin down was kind of my next, I would say, personal project.
And did you find that particular treatment or those combinations effective? Did it make a big difference?
Beautiful. I just recently, because I finished up in May of 2024, and it took me a little while to get to it, but I just did post a video on my before and afters. So
I will link it below.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. And I did a whole video on my 7-year journey with everything that I've done.
Okay.
So if I missed something inadvertently, people can check that out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
because we're drawing up to the big one now.
Yeah, we are.
And we're all looking at the beautiful results, because you decided, now when was it? Remind us when it was that you had your surgery.
I just had my surgery less than 6 weeks ago.
6 weeks, and already you're looking like that. What was it in the run up to it? Because you'd invested a lot in the non-surgical route. What was the decision process behind, taking that step?
I'd never taken it off the table. And so I spent a good 10 years almost doing all the non-surgical options, but I still had that lower sagging skin and the laxity in through here. And they used to solve some of that laxity with a touch of filler, etc. But honestly, that, as we know, has been a bit passé. People start to get that really puffy look. You can't really use filler to lift. We've kind of gone through that evolution of not using that option. And you could use some biostimulators, but honestly, my sagging skin genetically was just more than any biostimulator would improve, and more than any skin device that I had used in the last 3.5 years on my channel was going to improve. Now, did I find some slight benefit? Yes, but it was temporary as far as the results that we can get at home with skincare devices. Do I still endorse them and use them? My 2 favorites are LED and microcurrent. Yes, they give a lovely temporary look to the face.
They're great for maintenance, I think. And
No,
as you
they're
say,
perfect for maintenance,
really
and I've always done
slight,
that.
subtle improvements, but they're not they can't rival anywhere close to a facelift or even some of those clinical treatments, that the other ones that you've mentioned as well.
It's true.
You just can't get it with home
It's
devices.
so true. And I have done very honest reviews, as you have done, about the results of these home devices. And they are subtle. They can give subtle results. Like I said, I think the LED was the best because it helped with that readiness to my skin. And
yes, I love red light as
and
well.
I love it.
It's a
I love
great
it.
thing.
And then microcurrent just gives you that little perk up in the morning.
Yeah.
But by the end of the day, you still
It's right
have
back
it.
down.
It's right back down. It really is. It's sad.
And so you reached your decision and you decided to go with the fabulous Dr. Amir Karam. A lot of us will follow him on YouTube.
I know.
And
He
would definitely be on the top of that wish list.
Yes.
You had a consultation with him. What did he recommend you have done?
So my first consultation was virtual. And he recommended the vertical restore versus his vertical prevent. So much more invasive than the vertical prevent. An under eye skin pinch and fat transfer. Those were the three things. I know he does offer the upper or the lip lift. I think, yeah, that's what they call it, lip lift.
The idea of pulling up
Yeah, I was
the
just like,
lip.
not scared me, but I was just like, I don't want that. But he didn't recommend it anyway, so we were good.
And you went for it 6 weeks ago.
I did. I bought myself some time because when I sat down with my first consultation, I was like, I am not ready for this, but I want to talk to you and I want to learn about your procedure. It was going to be my 65th or 60th birthday present, if I even decided to go with it. So that virtual consultation really was just a discussion. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to get my reservation in because you got to get in early with it.
I bet.
I'm going to put my reservation in and hold my place. And when I'm comfortable, I will decide to do it or decide to say, no, thank you. I'll take my deposit back and we'll call this a day. And so I just kept putting it off. And then one day I was just ready.
Yeah.
So I set the date.
And I mean, we can see the results 6 weeks in. When this finally publishes, it's going to be a little further forward. So we can take a look at your channel and see how you're doing in the week since. But it's looking great. You told me before we started recording that you still have some swelling, but I mean,
Oh, I do.
to
My
me,
lower face is quite puffy.
it's
It is, yeah.
incredibly natural. I mean, how do you feel when you look in the mirror now? Are you looking in the mirror a lot? I would be never away from the mirror. Like, yeah.
Right now, I feel like I'm looking at myself, but just refreshed. But that took some time, obviously.
Yes. I mean, in the days afterwards, were you thinking, what on earth have I done, when you were all swollen? And
Oh, yes, I did go through. And what I love about his practice and about the people in his practice, like, you're going to have some down days. They don't hide it. What is he? I think he even says, you're going to hate me. At a certain point, you're going to hate me. You're going to think, what have I done? Dr. Karam, what have you done to me? And I did go through that. And I was like, I'm not going to go through that. I'm tough. I'm not going to go through that. But it is an emotional journey. It is a physical journey, and it is a financial journey. And none of those should be taken lightly.
was it very uncomfortable just having, so many, it was really affected your entire face. Was it the discomfort, or did it make you feel physically unwell? What was the worst physical side of the
First
recovery?
physical side was just the swelling. I think just that the feeling of like being like a blown up balloon and it will never go away. Obviously, it does. I had a nurse help me the first day or two because my husband wasn't able to travel out because of business to help right away. And she was like, everyone looks like an avatar. And I was like, oh, I do look like an avatar. And like, it actually kind of helped. She's like, everyone is wondering when the avatar face will go away. So just don't worry about it. And everybody's different. So yeah, it's disconcerting.
Yes, I can imagine.
It is, yes.
How quickly did the swelling settle and you started to see what was emerging?
It ebbs and flows. So at the 3-week mark, I woke up one day and I was like, oh my God, there I am.
3 weeks.
I have cheekbones. Okay, it's me. I am under here somewhere. And that was week 3. But then it goes down again. So it's this constant ebb and flow the first 6 weeks. And he actually says that this will occur up from 4 to 6 months. Usually the 4-month mark, you're kind of, the swelling is, gone down and you start feeling like very comfortable. But he said it can last for some people up to 6 months to a year.
Did that swelling coming? I would have thought once the swelling was gone, it's gone, but it can come back.
For me personally, it has definitely ebbed and flowed depending on my activity level. If I overdid it a touch, then I will be swollen the next morning if I didn't elevate enough, or if perhaps I maybe ate something that, causes swelling, or took like an Advil or something that just causes swelling. I went to dinner last night. I went out like the first week. I was like, whatever. I didn't care.
Everybody else is just going to have to deal with this because I am.
I'm going to have to deal with this mess. But a friend was like, oh my gosh, you just look like you, but refreshed but better. Like,
oh, I'm happy for you. What was the aftercare? You talked about nutrition there. I mean, what have you learned? What were the big takeaways of how to recover or support your recovery best?
He puts you on a very strict regimen. I mean, and there is basically, he gives no leeway. He's like, if you don't do it my way, then you really shouldn't do this. I've always questioned nutrition as far as supplementation. And so that was hard for me to adopt. I always wanted to get all my nutrition through food. And so I was hesitant to start all these supplements, to be perfectly honest. But he said, this is going to prepare you for surgery, and it is going to, and he's seen over time that this supplementation really speeds up healing. And I'm going to give you an example. I decided to go off my supplements at day 10 after surgery, and I felt it. I really did. So I grabbed all the jars out and I started retaking them, and I started slowly over the week feeling better. So there's something to it. And he's very strategic about the exact day you take what, the exact amount, and very clear about foods you need to stay away from during the healing process. I would say I always pretty much ate a clean diet. I'm not a junk food person. I don't like junk food. I don't like fast food at all. I mean, I like food that looks like food. But at the same time, having a coach, I really felt like he was a coach to say, here's what I'd really like you to do to get the best outcome possible.
Can you share with us some of the supplements that he recommended for the healing, the kind of big ones?
Well, they're clinical supplements for night and day. They're just vitamins. And then he has you go on arnica and bromelain and a vitamin K. And he has a pre-operative schedule and a post-operative schedule when you taper down. He's not saying these supplements you stay on these mega doses for life, but he says this will give you the best opportunity for healing in the moment when your body is compromised.
I mean, the cost of it all, how does it compare to you? The cost of the surgery versus what you put into non-surgical treatments. How are you comparing those?
I would say if I totaled everything up on either end, the non-surgical was about half the cost of the surgical option. And again, both of my providers are on the high end. So let's just get that out there. And you certainly don't have to go to someone who costs this much to get a beautiful outcome. That's clear. I mean, do your research, obviously, but it just happened to be that these were the two people that I found the most trust in. And for me, the dollars were worth it.
Yeah.
So I would say my non-surgical was half the cost of the surgical outcome. And the non-surgical dealt mostly with improving the pigment in my skin, improving the texture of my skin, and a touch of filler volume, of course. And that was also dealt with in the fat, with using the fat transfer. I think they kind of are a marriage for me, because nothing that I would have done in clinic, minimally invasive clinical procedures would have gotten rid of the laxity. So it's two things that you're dealing with.
They're complementary. Is the feeling I'm getting from you that these were very much complementary.
I'm going to give you an analogy that was one of my subscribers typed up the other day in my facelift reveal video. She's like, it would be if you refurbished your couch, like the structure of your couch, and then you just put the old fabric on. It would, you would never get the same outcome. Okay, the structure is like the facelift, and the fabric is like the non-surgical options and the skincare or at-home skincare. But you can't really deal with the underlying structure unless you get in there physically. But if let's say I'd had a facelift without dealing with all the other things, then I would just have this, drapey fabric and loose fabric and or spotted fabric over this structure that was beautiful. So they are synergistic, I guess is the best way to put it.
100%. And you know how to best maintain the results as well, because it's not just about, you get a facelift and off you go and it stays like that. Results you need to take care.
The minute you walk out the door, you're aging. The end.
Yeah.
So take care of what I've done.
Yes. And did he give you some tips? I mean, I've seen his kind of skincare recommendations, and they pretty much fall within what we know of, using a retinoid, keeping your skin well moisturized, that kind of idea. Is that pretty much it?
The vitamin C, the moisturizer, exfoliating, gentle exfoliation regularly. Depending on your skin sensitivity, just all those things that are really important for skin, and you really can get by with just a basic skincare routine as long as you're including the big hitters.
Yep,
I have a whole regimen that goes a little bit deeper, obviously, because my channel is all about skincare and looking into all the new and upcoming innovations in skincare, and are these really going to make a difference? So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you're looking absolutely stunning. I mean, whenever anybody has surgery, there's always There's always at least one person out there that takes issue with it. Did any of your viewers, did you get any negativity?
Oh, yes, plenty. I've never shied away from those negative comments because I always learn something from them. I mean, it's really important to take someone else's perspective and viewpoint. And all my subscribers, whether they have a positive or somewhat negative or even constructive comment, I always learn something from them and try to take their perspective. I mean, it might distress me personally at first, right? You read the comment and you're like, okay, that hurt my feelings. And then you step away and then you're like, but they do have a point. I want to understand their point. I want to understand their point of view and respond respectfully because everybody's allowed their opinion, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole reason I have my channel too, is to have a conversation. And you can't have a conversation if everyone's just, yay, this is perfect, this is wonderful. I mean, to have a conversation, you have to have people that don't agree with you as well. Or it's not a conversation. It's just like everyone, cheerleading you on, which is not really my intent.
Nobody can tell anybody else how to age. I mean, I think you really struck something when you talked about looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself. And the doctors that I've interviewed in the channel, that comes up a lot, where they'll say that what drives a lot of people through their door is that very statement where they just look in the mirror and think, I don't look how I feel. And if I got to that point and I could afford it, I would certainly consider surgery. At the moment, I'm okay with how I'm at, I'm not dodging the mirror quite yet. I have my moments sometimes where, sure. Okay, I could do with all this. But I think a lot of people will relate to that. Cost. Oh, there's the dog.
I love dogs. I miss my dog.
Yeah, I think cost plays a huge factor for a lot of people.
And it's not to be dismissed. It is a huge factor because that is a pain point for many people. And that is to be respected. I mean, and I don't take that for granted at all. That's what many of the comments are. If I could afford it, I would do it. If I could afford it, I would do it. It's not that they're against the fact that doing it. It's just like that barrier. And I don't know, that does resonate with me. And
yeah, it's a privilege to be able to do it. Yeah. But also your results should be celebrated because it's artistry at work and you look great, and that can only be a good thing.
Yes. I agree.
And I will be linking below to your videos, some of the videos that we mentioned, and encouraging people to keep up with your journey. It's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, I welcome everyone's comments, and I will be doing a Q&A follow-up to my announcement video. So I'd like to invite everyone to ask more questions. I'm an open book, as I say. I've never hidden anything that I've done, and I welcome the discussion.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to it. Thank you.
And thank you so much.
You'll find links to Cindy's Instagram and YouTube channel below. Just click where it says more beneath this video. And I've also included there a couple of the videos that we mentioned in our conversation, including, of course, Cindy's recent facelift results reveal. You'll also find links below to more fascinating interviews with women who've undergone health, fitness, and cosmetic transformations. And to make sure you don't miss out on content from me, you can sign up there to my free monthly newsletter, where I round up all my latest episodes on YouTube and podcast platforms, as well as the articles and reviews published on my website, honest.scot. And if you enjoyed today's episode, you can help it reach more people by liking, commenting, and sharing. Always really appreciate that. And if you haven't already, by hitting subscribe along with the notification bell, or follow if you're listening to the podcast, you can access new episodes as soon as they're published. But for now, thank you so much for being here.